Everybody's Wednesdays are going well so far, and if it's not, I hope that you make it through the day and that tomorrow is a little bit of a better day. I've talked about this topic on my channel many times before, but not for a while. The reason why I'm talking about it again today is because somebody happened to ask me about it. They asked me about my experience in 2012, 2013, which was one of the worst time periods of my life. And as I was speaking about it, I remembered I had a whole different life back then. That was the darkest time period of my life. And even as bad as things have been since, even with losing my dad, and even with going through physical issues, and even going through emotional issues, nothing that I'm experiencing right now compares to the time when I was in the depth of my agoraphobia. Now, for those who don't know what agoraphobia is, agoraphobia, in layman's terms, you basically develop this fear loop. So, the way that it started for me was that I started getting panic attacks at work. And if anyone knows what a panic attack is or has experienced one, they know how scary it is, especially before you know what it actually is. It feels like a heart attack, or it feels like you're dying, you think you're gonna die. So I was experiencing those panic attacks and not knowing what they were. And then I went to a doctor, I went to a general physician who gave me a diagnosis at that time of general anxiety disorder. That was the only diagnosis. And he gave me Xanax, and he actually told me, this is no big deal. He said, you're a young man in your 20s. A lot of people experience anxiety based around just getting out of school and trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives, etc. So just take this Xanax as needed. So I took the Xanax, and the Xanax would calm down my panic attacks within, hold on a minute. The Xanax would calm down my panic attacks within minutes. It would be very fast. My symptoms for the panic attacks were my heart would feel like it's racing. I would feel like I can't catch my breath. I would feel like my brain fog. I couldn't think straight. It was really tough. So the Xanax would calm that down for a while. But then after a while, the Xanax started to lose its effectiveness. And then I started to take it every 4 hours. And then I started to take it every 3 hours, and you're supposed to take it only once every 4 hours, etc. Then I would take two. I guess you could say that I had a Xanax addiction at one time, but it wasn't like I. It was more of a sense of the Xanax was the only thing calming down the panic attacks. I wasn't enjoying a high when I got them. It was more like when I had them, the panic attacks would stop for a little bit because I was experiencing them all day. So this is a long answer to agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is when you develop this fear to have a panic attack outside of your safe space. And the safe space is normally the home. So I was scared that I would have one of these panic attacks in a place where I wasn't safe. At home, I could go to my room and I could try to, I could listen to some music, whatever it was. I felt like I'm safe in my home. But it's bigger than what I'm making it sound like, because it gets to a point where your mind convinces yourself that you shouldn't leave your home. You shouldn't leave your safe space because you're going to have a panic attack as soon as you leave your safe space, and then that starts happening. So that's where I was. My safe space started shrinking. I wasn't working anymore. I wasn't able to work anymore. And now, um, places that I used to feel safe in, like a grocery store, or like going to church, or anywhere that I used to frequent, the library, anywhere and everywhere that was not my house, I would be in that place thinking, what if I get a panic attack? And then I was getting panic attacks within those places. So I eventually stopped going to all these different places. I stopped going to my gym because I started to get panic attacks in the gym. And next thing you know, my whole life is in my house. I'm spending all my time in my house at that point. And then it wasn't even just my house, it became spending all that time in my room. And it was a very dark time in my life. That's the best way I can describe it, because I've never felt suicidal per se, but during that time period, I would go to bed at night and I would be like, please God, either cure me of this illness or just let me go. Like, I didn't have a plan to off myself, but I did feel like this is not living. This is the opposite of living. And it was something that was constant and persistent. I lived every day with this very, very very intense fear of dying, because that's what these constant panic attacks felt like. And I wasn't eating, I was barely sleeping. I lost about 60 to 80 pounds. I was about 120 pounds. That's not a normal weight for me. 120 pounds. The last time I weighed 120 pounds before that point was when I was probably 12 or 13. So I was, my whole meal for the day might have been some yogurt, like one pack of yogurt and a couple of crackers. And that's because my mom forced me to eat that. I was eating 200 calories a day. And all of this led me to eventually self-check myself into a hospital, because I was like, you know what? Somebody has to help me. I had a wrong idea of what checking yourself into a psych ward was, because I packed a bunch of things, like as if I could take those things in there with me. I had my laptop, I had some notebooks, I had loaded up some movies on my computer to be able to watch some movies. I think I brought snacks. Like, I thought that this was a hotel stay or something. And then when I got there, I remember they saw the bag and they were like, what are you doing with that? And I was like, I'm bringing this in. And they were like, no, you're not. So they took the bag from me. That was it. Took my cell phone, took my computer, took everything. You can't bring anything in here with you. And I went in there. I was in there for about 13 days. And there was this doctor there, Dr. Ray. I will never forget Dr. Ray. I should try and get in contact with Dr. Ray, as a matter of fact, because she saved my life. Dr. Ray literally saved my life. Dr. Ray was the first doctor who actually validated my experience, because before I went to that hospital, I went to the hospital about 30 times in 1 year, thinking that I didn't believe that a mental problem could cause all these different alarming physical sensations. But they tested me for everything. I did like echocardiogram, they did chest x-rays, they did brain scans, they did so many different tests. They tried some asthma medication on me. They did so many different things. They tested my heart, they did all these different tests, and they discovered nothing from any of those tests. And I'm still thinking there's some mystery illness. So I remembered when Dr. Ray met me, she asked me what symptoms I'm experiencing. And I started to tell her, and she's like, oh, slow down. She said, write them down on this piece of paper. So I wrote them down. And I used to have like a 5-page. When I was out of the hospital, I would literally bring the paper to all the different offices that I went to. These are all my symptoms, but I remember them off the top of my head. 5 pages. And I wrote down all the symptoms. And the doctor was like, "You seem like a pretty smart, like a really smart guy." So she said, "Hold on to this paper that you just wrote." And then she had this book. I forgot what the book was called, but it was a book that had a list of all the different mental health disorders and all the symptoms that they can cause. So she said, "Open the book to page so and so." And I opened up the book, and she said, "Take a look at this list and take a look at your list." So this page that I had flipped open to was the page about general anxiety disorder. And I'm looking at their list, and I'm looking at my list, and I'm like, everything that I wrote on my list of symptoms is on this list under potential symptoms caused from general anxiety disorder. It even had my GERD, it had my acid reflux disease, it had the weight loss, it had the migraine headaches that I was getting, dizziness, it had the tingling limbs, all the different symptoms that I was telling her and had told all these people before were on there. And she was like, "Mark, first of all, I want to acknowledge that the symptoms that you're feeling are real, and they are called somatic symptoms." So she said, sometimes your mind, she said, your mind is a very powerful thing, and sometimes the constant stress and the fear loop can actually release different levels of cortisone into your body, which can change your body chemistry and actually cause physical reactions to the stress that you're experiencing. So everything that you feel is a real feeling, but the why is a lie. And she gave an example of like fight or flight or freeze, where she was like, back in the day, this is something that is ingrained in our bodies for like if a bear was chasing us, or we're out in the woods and we're doing hunting or something like that, and some kind of animal that can kill us is after us, we suddenly get this adrenaline rush and are able to do superhuman things and run away or fight, I don't know, whatever it is. But your brain gets into this loop where, in absence of those things, those dangers actually being there, you still feel that fear, and you still get that shot of adrenaline, and you still get that cortisone and all these different chemicals that are released in your body, and it stays in your body perpetually, causing you this dangerous loop. So when she said that to me, that was really what got me on my road to recovery, because I finally had somebody who understood and explained it in a way that was not like, there's nothing wrong with you, it's all in your head. That's what I was getting before. So when I got out of that hospital, I went to a therapist, and the therapist gave me something that was called gradual exposure therapy. And at first, I had a hard time accepting that things that I knew how to do already, I was relearning them as a 24 or 25-year-old. But it was really like that. It's like any kind of rehab. You know, you have a traumatic leg injury or back injury, something like that, and then they send you to physical therapy for you to learn how to walk again. It's the same type of thing, except for your mind. Like I had to retrain my brain. It started off with, she would tell me, okay, so your job for this week is to go outside at least maybe 3 or 4 days. Sit outside right on your steps and just take deep breaths for about 30 seconds and go back inside. And that might not sound like much of anything, but I was terrified to be outside. As soon as I even thought about going outside, these panic attacks were hitting. So I would go sit out there, I would set my timer 30 seconds, take 4 or 5 deep breaths, go back inside. And what that was doing was it was returning the normalcy back into my brain of being outside in and of itself is not dangerous. So I did that for a week. Then the next week she'd be like, okay, now your goal for this week is to walk down your driveway and then walk back up your driveway. This was an extremely long process. It went from walking up and down the driveway, taking a couple steps on my sidewalk, walking to the end of the sidewalk and getting to the stop sign, then walking a block, walking 2 blocks. Then it started like I wanted to get back in my gym. So she would tell me, go into your gym and just stand in the gym for a minute, leave the gym. Then the next time, be in there for 2 minutes. Then the next time, like, pick up a dumbbell. And then the next time, maybe go on the treadmill, 15 seconds. It sounds like it was a commitment. And thinking back to it, it was a whole different life. That's why when this person asked me about what the experience was like for me the other day, it put my mind back there for a little bit, where I was like, wow, I've come a long way. As much as I could complain about my life right now, there's nothing in my life that I'm experiencing that is worse than that time period was. That time period was a time when I didn't know if I was gonna live or die. And really, I was dying. Not just because my mental health, but I wasn't eating, like I said. I was extremely malnourished. I had daily acid reflux in my stomach because my stomach was not... Our stomach produces a certain amount of acid to be able to digest the food that we put into it, and I wasn't eating. So my stomach was just burning a hole in itself. It was just eating itself up. And I was being prescribed acid blockers, which is crazy. I was being prescribed acid blockers for acid reflux, but the reason the acid reflux was happening was because there was no food in my stomach. So I hope this video, I don't really even care how many views this video does. I made this video because I know there's people out there right now that are experiencing agoraphobia. Not that many people talk about this. It's a very under talked about thing, and so many different people experience it, and it's a feeling that's like living and dying at the same time. Like you're dying inside, but you're still alive, and it's a slow, silent killer. So I would just have to say to anybody who is living and experiencing this, I am living proof that you can get out of it, because I did not think I could get out of it. The positive person that you see today, the one person who could tell you, I'm sure there's many people who could tell you, but the person who could tell you the best that the positive person that you see today did not exist, or I won't say that he didn't exist, but I was not that person. I was not the person you come to for a problem. I was not a person who could ever see myself even doing the line of work that I'm doing right now. I was just not that person. My mom would ask me, hey Mark, how you doing today? I would tell her, terrible. Life couldn't be any worse. Why am I here? You know, that would be my answer every single day. And it wasn't because that was ever who I was before developing the anxiety disorder and the depression and the panic disorder and the agoraphobia. Before then, that's not what I was like, you know? But after experiencing that over a period of time and trying so many different things and finding that nothing was working for me, I now was like at a point where I felt like, man, I give up, because I've tried everything. I've gone to so many different doctors. I've gone to the emergency room so many different times. I've spoken to different therapists. It's just been such a rough go for me, and I don't see a way out. So there's no way that I can think positively. And I got out of it a little bit at a time, and a little bit at a time. And once I got to the point where now here I am, even though I would still say that I have a mild case of agoraphobia, because I don't think that it ever goes away 100%. I would say that I'm like 80, 90%. 10% of the time is still affected, maxing on me physically and mentally and emotionally. But I am at a point where it doesn't dictate my life. It doesn't stop me from living. There's so many things that I do now that there's people without an anxiety disorder can't do or won't do. All right. I still get heart palpitations. That's the worst, especially when I get them when I'm exercising, because I feel like, oh man, what is happening? Like my heart can't take the exercise. Minor procedure on her foot. I haven't been taking my anxiety medication. I worry that panic attacks will hurt my heart. That's the worst. I forgot about that. The chest pain, like the sharp pain in your chest. That's one of the worst. I felt that yesterday or the day before. Actually, I felt that for about a week, and I went to my doctor the other day. Why do I not want to take care of myself? It takes too much work. Am I lazy or depressed? Discuss. Could be depression. Trying to make a list of things to do. I'm glad you recovered. Thank you. Yeah, so it's a tough thing to go through. And even if you haven't had agoraphobia, a lot of people experience this in the absence of agoraphobia. I think that agoraphobia is just an extreme version of an anxiety disorder, like a really extreme version. But a lot of people have those symptoms without having it escalate to being a fear of being outside. I do struggle with going out, and I don't like to talk about it. And you're here in New York City too, right, Trisha? So New York City is the pressure cooker. Yeah, I've heard that before about chewing gum, Trisha. I have heard that one before. Have a great day. What time is it? 11:30? Yeah, I'm gonna be off here soon. I'm almost at my next client's place. But any chance I get to talk about this topic, I forget about it sometimes because I am basically 9-10 years removed from anxiety having that kind of a grip hold on my life. Now I do have experiences where you start to learn your triggers, and you start to learn about yourself, and you start to learn about things that you should avoid. You start to learn things that you can do when you start to experience panic attacks, And now I'm at a point where I feel like for the most part I'm in control. So I'm thankful for how far I've come and that I've never fallen back into that. Because it's not something that I could really deal with twice. I mean, I don't even want to say that. But, of course, I hope that I would never experience that again. Right. So now I am here. Thank you all for tuning into my TED Talk. And I'll talk to everybody soon. Please make sure if you haven't done so yet, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. Thank you.